Hello and welcome to a Timberborn Colony submission video, this time in Update 6 with the Waterbeavers faction, submitted by a viewer named Monty, who writes that they started this playthrough to play along with me on the same map. This is Ancient Waterways, the one we're doing in our Update 6 playthrough. And they wanted to make sure that before they activated the Wonder, that they've got everything accomplished that they wanted to get done, well-being all the way up. You can see in the corner it says 85. It did say 86 earlier, but essentially most of this is pretty much good to go. Not every beaver has access to absolutely everything, but everything is represented for the most part. And what they did is they went ahead and deleted the wonders so I wouldn't have anything affect my save game, because I haven't even gotten close to that yet. But you take a look at this map, and there's such an incredible amount of terraforming that has occurred. Let me hide the HUD real quick. This is almost completely unrecognizable because there's just so much terrain that has been removed. So the district center right here is basically in the same place that I've got it in our main playthrough we've been making videos on. But this right here, this giant pool, is, on my map, a big tower of terrain with the overhangs and all that stuff. But that's been completely removed. And instead, there's a water cannon, which is one of those mid-late game items we haven't gotten to yet, filling this little irrigation pond constantly to keep these trees happy and all sorts of good stuff. But that's not the only thing they've done here. Is underneath all these levees and this floodgate dam, we bring this back down. These are the 4 water sources in the center of the map, so there's nothing, absolutely nothing coming out of here, which is a good thing during bad tides, I suppose. But yeah, there's so much other stuff that's been removed in this map. Like, look at this, like this whole mountain here, with the exception of the tiles behind where the water sources are, has been completely removed, and everything's been flattened. Oh yeah, by the way, airships exist. We haven't talked about those. But it is just incredible to see the amount of stuff that has gone into this playthrough. The amount of different types of food alone. There's 91,000 food stored. 11,000 pineapples. Yes, the English word for this, that every other language calls it ananas or whatever. I'm not good at other languages, that's why I don't speak them. But just take a look at every single food item here. And like they're all here. Drinks too. It's just quite possibly just about everything has been done here. But I did want to show you guys some of the mid and late game things we haven't gotten to, because I think this mod is really great, and we've honestly not even scratched the surface of what's possible. So kind of in keeping with what I've done, a lot of this is similar in terms of growing cabbages and sunflower seeds, and there's even some mines here, which is the same place that we started ours with. Different technology, research, and all sorts of stuff, but there's so much diversion of bad water that's happened here. This is the bad water source. Remember, there's a big mountain here in our playthrough, but the bad water here is being used for power generation, which I thought was really cool. And it just all goes right off the edge of the map. There's floodgate dams everywhere. And, you know, obviously it's a temperate cycle. There's no bad tide or anything going on. But that's the only spot on the whole map where there is any bad water, is just this area right here, all funneling that way. So there's been a lot of really, really clever manipulation of terrain. And remember, in Waterbeavers, terrain manipulation is very expensive. And if you want to do terrain blocks outside of just using levees, it's 1,000 pieces of dirt per block, which of course is obtained by coming over here to our mechanical drills and using drill bits and then all that other fun stuff. You get dirt, you get the ore of choice, and you get waste rocks. So you go on long enough. Like, this is cycle 83. This is a pretty long playthrough. But you're going to have a lot of dirt, and you're going to have a lot of rocks, and you're going to have a lot of stuff to do with it. So that just goes to show, if you're willing to put in the time, Waterbeavers can be a really, really fun, rewarding experience. You just have to be able to suffer through all the nonsense first. And there's so much here. So much here. If you watched our earlier playthrough, in Update 5, you'll remember the high temperature foundry, where you can make a whole bunch of different stuff, like, for example, the steel saw blades, glass we've already talked about, scrap metal. But everything in here is just really, really nicely organized. And it's hard to organize in the Waterbeavers, as you've seen. But I wanted to take a minute to talk about this guy right here. This is an abyssal nuclear reactor, which, as the name implies, produces power with nuclear fuel. But what's cool about this in Update 6 versus Update 5 is this goes on what Waterbeavers mod calls the Abyss, which is basically the mining sites, like the big underground mine things that we built in all the other playthroughs. So this is a tremendously good building for us to be building. It's just going to take a really long time. But it's been put to really good use here, because it's generating tons and tons and tons of power, which of course is connected to these wheels, and everything is just connected to everything, and I really like how this has been laid out. But up on top of this, there's also these giant pillars, which we'll get to how you make those in a minute. But there's aqueducts, which we have not gotten to, and really, honestly, haven't talked to at all. There's so much you can do with all of this stuff. I really hope we can get there. And this, of course, this is water outflow. This is where the water's all coming from. This is how the abyssal nuclear reactor functions. There's all sorts of different things that go into it. I don't really want to take the time to explain during what is a colony review video and not a hey, let's talk about Waterbeavers video. But one of the reasons I chose to do this one today out of all the ones that were submitted is it's Wednesday, so it's normally a Waterbeavers day anyway, and I thought it would be kind of fun to take a step away from our playthrough and show you what someone who has put a lot more time into the Waterbeavers is able to accomplish with some good thinking and not a whole lot of streamer blindness, as some of you have come to call what tends to happen in my videos. But there's so much to discuss that I really like about what's been done here. Like everything is really organized. These right here, these assembly lines, we haven't built in our playthrough, but they're all stacked on top of each other. They're easily accessed. Everything is just really nicely segmented. All these mechanized kitchen houses, and then of course over here we have got factories, and they're all powered, as one should do when you're stacking these things, just very neatly. And even though these wheels aren't turning because there's no liquid flowing through anything, they're still able to help transfer power and make sure that everything is hooked up nicely and it's not so much spaghetti everywhere. So all these paused things are actually water pumps, which I thought was really cool. So these, I mean, I haven't asked specifically about why they chose to do this way, but if I were the player that had made this, I would have done pretty much exactly the same thing if I had the resources, which is to just put a whole bunch of these water pumps, which, by the way, these are all paused, except the upgrades, because the upgrades don't house any beavers. I would have done exactly this, just so you can kind of have a huge area to pump from without having to also house I don't know, this would be like another 150, 200 beavers just for these alone. I think that's a really cool, smart way of doing it, which... come back to here again, this is the water outflow from the nuclear reactor, so this is kind of its own ecosystem kind of thing right here for water pumping. Of course, we also have the mechanized water pumps, which are working at 100% power input. And then we've got these guys, the giant buried tanks. We haven't gotten there in our playthrough, but I really want to get there, because look, they store 4,000 water. I just think they're neat. And of course, trebuchets, we talked a little bit earlier about waste rocks. This is what you do with those. You stick them in the trebuchet and they get fired off, and in return you get a little bit of science. The animation doesn't really correspond to anything here, it just kind of goes whenever, just like right there. And every once in a while a beaver will ride in the trebuchet, and there's a little this little message here. I don't think there's one in the message history. No, there's not. But I don't know, I just think it's neat. I think it's really cool. But take a look at, like, when you unlock everything, there's so much cool stuff you can do. Like these guys right here, these gigantuan storage piles. Basically, every material is represented here. We hold our tab key down, we can see exactly what's inside. This is tremendous. And, like, the warehouses hold 10,000. So you got pencil sets, you got rice, you've got lag, I guess, you got almost complete full storage of tools. There's, like, everything you could possibly want is accounted for, it's organized, and it just looks really good. So then we get over here, and if you've never seen these before, you're probably like, what the heck is this? This is bamboo. Unbelievably tall bamboo, the canonical in-game name for this. And this is cool because it allows you to either farm it for wood, or if you don't cut it down, you get what's called minty bamboo shoots. That's these things right here, and those get used in a variety of different things. But one of the most useful things you can do... actually, let me see if this works in Update 6 here with this playthrough. Goods consumption, which I love this mod so much. Let's take a look at the minty bamboo shoots, where they're going in here, because I haven't actually checked. There's a whole lot of buildings. Okay. Minty bamboo shoots are going into the clinic right here, which I'm actually kind of surprised there's only one, but there's only 300 some beavers, so I guess it's fine. This is one of the ingredients in Frost Balm, which is how you treat severe burns. And then the other one, of course, is, thank you, Lag, the distillery that is making endothermic essence. Endothermic essence is something that you use to make ice blocks, and there's a couple other recipes, which we can actually just go ahead and take a look here. Going into the Alchemist, which I don't know how they got by with only having one of those. I guess patience. But yeah, this is making ice blocks, which of course can be traded. And then the ENS, which is making processors. It consumes endothermic essence, gold dust, hydrogen, all this other stuff. So everything has been, for the most part, what I can tell poking around this for a little bit, everything has been put to pretty good use, pretty efficiently, and the layout of this is just really nice. Let's hide the HUD again so we can see. This is just really, really well done. And I know the map is pretty segmented, a whole lot of straight line design language, especially with this thing right here. But the way this is separated out is really cool. And of course we have the giant sequoias here. If you watched the last series, you already know about these, but these are just big trees. You cut them down, you get big logs. You cut the big logs up and you get a bunch of planks, or you get the materials to build these guys, these aqueducts here. So that's something fun we can take a look at later. And I wanted to highlight this too. This is a diversion method that a lot of you guys early on wanted me to try and get to, which we haven't gotten to yet. I still think I'd like to do this. Maybe not to this extreme here, but this is essentially just every single scrap of water that comes out of this in this current configuration just gets shoved off to the end of the map, because the rest of this really isn't necessary. We have plenty to go on here. Let's hide our water mess here, but there is a, I don't know, I thought this was smart to put this into the side here. Selective removal of some of this stuff, but there's so much cool stuff to like about this. Let's go ahead and, I guess, fast forward through the night here so we don't have to spend too much time looking in darkness. But this guy right here, the basic nuclear reactor, goes on top of the what do you call it? Yeah, very scientific term. This thing, the bad water source. So if you were wondering why there was no bad water anywhere else on the map except over there, that's why, because these have been placed on top, and this user is elected to pause them because there's already power like coming from over here. But these pretty good source of power in the mid-late game, if you can supply them with nuclear waste, which let's actually take a moment to check and see if any is being actively consumed. Thank you, Lag. There's a whole lot going on here. Take this back to single speed. Please click. Thank you. All right. In for nuclear waste. Somewhere. Yeah, we got two things consuming nuclear waste, which is the centrifuges. In Waterbeavers, this is how you make nuclear fuel. You spin the waste with pollution resistance factor, water, etc., so on and so forth, and you make the nuclear fuel, which is what powers your nuclear reactors. So you got two of these things, and then you have the two main reactors that are consuming the nuclear fuel, and then you have the bot assembler, which also uses those to make, well, bots. And in Waterbeavers, bots are only for hauling. That's these oversized big old beavers you see here. They're just carrying stuff around. There are 72 of them on this playthrough. And they end up using, I believe, yeah, these hauling bot standby areas. I have to be careful because you have the exercise plazas right next door. But this is where they stay when they're not being used, which in a map this fully utilized, they're going to be used. But that's how this mechanic works. I always thought that was cool, and I'd love to get there eventually. But we're not quite there yet. So these guys right here, Clockwork Hydroponic Farms, are a really, really great way to avoid farming nonsense, because this is all completely mechanical. It just has to be powered, which on a map that's this developed is super easy. But we'll be working toward these. I like having these things organized. You see the top ones are Everblossoms getting wood. Down there you have rice, and then below that you have cabbages, which you do have a selector in Update 6 for the different types of cabbage. But you have these 9 right here, and then elsewhere, I believe I saw... I could be wrong. Maybe I am wrong, but Now we have an airship crossing the screen, so we probably should go ahead and talk about these guys. These are basically just evolved balloons, but they look really cool. They run on hydrogen, which, you know, the world learned in the 1930s where that was a bad idea. But the beavers apparently haven't had that same experience, so they plump these things full of hydrogen, and then they do mass quantity trade with other types of beavers. That's, of course, in the flavor text that I hid so I could actually see everything else. But essentially, this is like, you know, in the civilization games, like the complete and total cultural victory, where people just give you tribute because you're that awesome, is what these airships are. So this one's getting frozen human meat, which, yeah, that's kind of weird, but the other ones can get stuff like coconuts and seashells, and then there's a couple other things here. This one's getting foreign food, and then this one is getting the insect larvae, which in the water beavers you use with the fireflies to make glowing fluid, which is a component in a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, just to hide the HUD again so we can appreciate the amount of stuff that has gone into this. And like a lot of the same decisions have been made in terms of spatial utilization. Obviously this is a lot more advanced, and a lot of terrain has been flattened, and some stuff has been put in different spots, but I really like what's been done here. I think this is going to be a good inspiration for some of the stuff that we could get to a little bit later. But I did want to show you guys all that. And this, by the way, we haven't talked about these in our game, but this is the forestry viewing spot upgrade. You can put it on top of, well, any triangular building like this, which this one is a tapper shack, and then this entire thing just attaches to that. But you can put it on a couple other things. I think elsewhere on the map I saw a couple similar ones, like this one right here is a hauling upgrade. This one's a hauling upgrade. This one's a building upgrade. And then these are all on top of lumberjack barns, regular farmhouse, and a harvester's cottage. So there's a lot of flexibility. I just haven't bothered to get to it because it has a science cost and it has a material cost. And everything with the water beavers has an emotional cost, right? Because there's so much stuff you have to try to do at once. But this is all stuff that we can utilize in our playthrough to good effect, and I like the way that it's been done here. This is probably the correct amount of fermentation barrels that we should have, but yeah, we have to clear more space. We've got to cut down some trees, reclaim a little bit more land, and utilize things a little bit more intelligently before we can make this happen. Keep in mind, 330 beavers is more or less than twice what we have now, but there's just so much more technology happening here, and we're essentially only occupying a quarter of the map currently. We have a little bit over here, and then we have a tiny bit over here. But this map has basically no space wasted. Everything's been utilized, and it's really, really cool to see. Oh, okay, this is terrain blocks that haven't been finished yet. I guess they were working on expanding the lotus area here, but these haven't been popped in place. It looks like... Okay, I thought this might have been a builder here, but looks like that's what's going to be happening here as soon as all of the dirt is brought over. You'd be forgiven if you hadn't caught that just because of everything else that's been going on. Hey, what's this one on top of? Tapper Shack, and that is a building upgrade. Okay, and, you know, there's 109 vacancies. It's fine. A lot of these are superfluous anyway. But I think that just about wraps up everything I wanted to show you guys about this. Obviously, you have, like, the statue of dunking, which I think is really funny. Let's just zoom in on that so you can see. It's just really, really clever humor in the Waterbeavers mod that I've always really liked. But, I don't know, just thanks again, Monty, for sending this in. This is a really, really fun reminder of what Waterbeavers can be without us having to suffer through, 100 hours of gameplay to get there. Just see some of the cool stuff you can do in the mid and late game and get inspired to have a little bit more dedication to getting things optimized and advance through the tech tree so we can make cool stuff like this too. So if you want to see your colony appear on the channel in a colony review, feel free to submit with the link in the description below. I can't promise that everybody's going to be featured, but I am going to look at all of them, and I will pick my favorites from time to time to make videos on and show everybody what the community is up to. So again, thanks for joining us for this. Beard Boosters, you already know, you make it possible to do all of the fun stuff on this channel, including making these videos and taking a little bit of a break from the normal schedule so I can rest, recharge, prioritize some other stuff in real life that is frankly a little bit more important than playing with beavers online. But the support does not go unnoticed. I really appreciate it. And again, you make this stuff possible, so thank you so much for your support. And thank you for being here, even if you're not part of that. We will be back in our Waterbeavers series on Friday, and I'm looking very much forward to getting the chance to play with some of the fun stuff that we've seen today. So, thanks for joining. I hope whatever it is you do with the rest of your day, you have a fun and a safe time, and we'll see you back very soon. Take care, friends. Bye-bye.